All right, welcome to the Executive Board meeting of the U.S. Chess Federation. It is September 10th, and we are going to go ahead and start with our open session and the roll call. So starting with Vice President of U.S. Chess, John Fernandez.
Here.
Vice President of Finance, Chuck Unruh.
Present. Here.
Secretary Mike Hoffpower.
Present.
Member at Large Layla Deccan.
Here.
Member at Large David Hayter.
Here.
And Member at Large Vish. He's on mute. Okay, hands up. I see the wave. Thank you. And Executive Director Renee Bartlett.
Present.
So this is the second time you haven't called me on the roll. Is there something I should know?
And Member at Large Randy Bauer.
Present.
Thank you, Randy. My apologies. All right. Are there any conflicts of interest to disclose? Any new conflicts? All right.
None.
Then let's continue. Move on. Let's go to Vice President Chuck Unruh for the financial report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I wish I had better news. We are definitely still feeling the reality and fallout of Pan Am Youth. So earlier today, we issued a brief statement of financial position and statement of activities, 2 pages. I hope we've had a little bit of time just to glance at those. I'm not sure, I don't know how to share, so I can walk you through some of the important parts.
Okay. Renee actually forwarded it to us. I have mine up right now.
Okay. If you go to the bottom line, just to start there, you'll see that we have a negative $795,092 for the 2 months. Now, we say 2 months because our new fiscal year starts in July, not June. So we will file something for June, but for the last 2 months, we're down at least $795,000. Now, we were expecting that. We were expecting quite a bit of hardship coming through, but it has gotten a little worse. There's some circumstances around it. There's a little good news in it, but the bad news is it just happened at a bad time. So we've had to use considerable amount of our reserves in order to plug the shortfall. And we'll have a motion later on that, getting approval for using those reserves for the shortfall. We were in front of the delegates and they approved a budget that said, well, we're going to lose about $700,000 from Pan Am. But on the way there, what they didn't take into account, what this doesn't take into account, that we've already done from a reserve account, another $200,000 went into capital investment. So our cash flow is impacted by another $200,000 besides the $700 on the bottom line. Then on top of that, coming off of a poor events year last year, the cash reserves were very slim. And that's why we've been using the rainy day fund. And in the rainy day fund, we thought we were about there, that 700,000 was going to do it roughly, but we had triple the losses we anticipated for the US Open. And the US Open then, now that's insignificant compared to Pan Am. It's only $30,000, but we expected to lose about 10,000. We had poor attendance and the losses tripled. So are there more negatives? Well, yeah, there's another negative here too. Our membership for the 2 months was significantly lower by at least 7%. So our membership revenue, I should say, was lower. So all this combination has stressed operations. And we've definitely had to not only go into the reserve fund, but we find ourselves in a position now where we have 2 months worth of burn. If something should happen, our cash reserves that can be used for operations will only cover 2 months. We try and strive for 6 to 1 year. So this is the lowest we've been. This is the worst part of the cycle. If we get through this cycle, recovery is probably around the corner. And we do see a little bit as we walk into the next month, this September, we're seeing some pickup in membership revenue. Likewise, if I started out saying another 200,000 was spent on capital, so that puts us 900,000 down in actual cash usage. On top of that, 187,000 of what we made in investments is in restricted funds that can't be used. So that's another 200,000. So losses really for operations are on the order of 1.2 million. This is very significant. We have to address it. And of course, Renee has been working diligently on several different ideas, but if things do not break correctly, we'll have to consider really cutting into the meat of this organization until we recover. This is by far the worst report I've ever had to give to the board and to the membership. What did we do to plug the gap besides just reserve fund? We negotiated with the hotel. We got online, negotiated with the hotel, and they were willing to delay another 185,000 worth of cash that was owed for attrition fees and penalties until November 1st. So we have a November 1st deadline of meeting another 185,000. All of this is stressing us. Can we do it? Yes. In fact, I would ask at this point that Renee, could you give us some of your thoughts and what actions you've been taking in order to ensure that we operate efficiently?
Sure, thanks, Chuck. I would add that a bit of good news, we are seeing a rebound on membership growth in the month of August. And so we're coming back strong now that the school year has started. In operations, we're certainly cutting our travel expenses. We're going to have less staff members present at the upcoming grade nationals. We're also looking at some of the expenses that are attending some of our events. We've seen lower attendance, which has caused the loss at the US Open. And the biggest amount of loss in this financial report, we can point to one event that didn't meet expectations. It is not an indication of any other weakness in the way that we operate. So because we can point to that, and we did disclose that in the budget that was passed to the delegates, Chuck's right, we're only going to go up.
Yes. And the last thing that caught us by surprise is refunding. I should say that the events coordinator in the budget, when we first saw the numbers come out at 700,000, we didn't know there'd be about 100,000 worth of refunds. That has occurred. We're ready to move forward, like Renee is saying. And we're being very careful. And of course, we're in contact probably every other day talking about the finances. Now, something good on our investment teams, last week, the market was down 4%. On $5 million, we were down $5,000. So we did take a loss in value, but we should be thankful it wasn't more like 200,000. So the investment team's doing a very good job. And that is showing on the bottom line with the 187,000 for two months. Can we keep that up? Probably not, but it'll be respectable. So are we still solid? Are we gonna make it? We're not borrowing any money. We don't plan to borrow any money. Just about all the bad news we could have is out. Now it's maybe blue skies coming up, especially with the report in late August, September, that the numbers are starting to come back. And we'll be addressing an issue that has probably more risk in it than it had in the past. And that's hotel attrition. The attrition penalties, I should say the hotels have wised up, and their attrition penalties are very, very tough. And we'll get to those later. But that's our financial report. Can we meet our bills? Yes. We're planning. It was really nice of Rosen to help us by delaying payment of the penalty to November 1st.
So,
Questions?
yeah, so part of that discussion with Rosen wasn't just delaying it, but actually offsetting it with additional events. So what is happening in that part of that discussion?
They have not volunteered, but a kind of a handshake, we'll consider it. I mean, what
And
can we do?
We're also in
So
the process
we
of
talked about-
negotiating
go ahead.
for future events.
Yes, go ahead, Renee.
So the events team is in the process of looking at dates that could work at Rosen Shingle Creek. And so there will be opportunities to see some assistance as we book future events.
I mean, my understanding was that if we would actually get those under contract, that could be then a consideration to reduce the 185,000 we owe them. Is that not the case?
No, they wanted payment in full first. And then
So they
later
wanted
on, they would
payment
in
consider
full.
proportionate.
And then with future bookings, they were basically saying they would credit it back.
So they
But
would
not all at once, but not all at once.
All right. So
So
the other,
it's so foggy, we have to give it zero value. We don't know what the value will be in the future. And at zero, we can't get hurt.
so the other thing obviously that's going to occur is we're going to have a dues increase. Has that been kind of put out there in terms of in Chess Life? Because what then happens is that people will, and it only helps you on the cash flow, but that's fine. They will do a multi-year membership renewal.
Renee, can you answer that, please?
Yes, we're going to print now on the next Chess Life, and there will be an article in there detailing that. And then
Okay.
we will share that article online and in social media.
Okay. I mean,
And
that
you're
mo-
right. There will be some renewals that will come in at the end of this year in anticipation of the dues increase that's coming in January. So we
Right.
should see some increase in membership just from that.
Yeah, and as I say, it's a cash flow issue, but it sounds like that's important right now. So, okay.
Very much so. Yes, Randy, you're on top of it. Is the idea that
Hey, I
membership
lived through
revenues
this a
will
lot worse.
probably- Excuse me?
I'm sorry, Chuck, I jumped on you, but I was saying I lived through this a lot worse than we are right now. Okay, where it really
Yes, but
this
we
was-
should have never been here again.
No, but where we are is still not where we were.
It's
Where
where
we
this is the
almost ceased to be
reality
a
and we'll
going
live with it.
concern.
Yes. It was really good news that, is it National Harbor? Is that what we're calling it? Where the hotel is
12,
already
correct.
booked. The Great
Gaylord.
Championship. Because that makes last year's events just an anomaly. We just didn't do as well as we normally do.
Well, the only downside that I'm picking up from Renee is based upon this 100% attrition or the way they're handling it, if anyone cancels their room, we still get charged for the room. And
Yeah,
they
even if
don't
they
give us
even
the
if they
inventory
resell
back.
it, even if they resell it, we still get charged.
So they're double dipping in essence.
Well,
Renee, you're on, Leela, you're on mute if you're talking.
Yeah, I don't understand that contractually. I can understand they're not allowing us to resell it at our reduced rate, but it seems to me that if they sell the room, they've sold the room, they can't sell the room and charge us for the room.
So Renee, how do you take that? Are you-
A lot depends on when the cancellation occurs because there's a deadline in terms of people taking advantage of the lower rate. Boyd is trying to get the hotel to allow us to get the room returned to us in our block, but there is no guarantee or requirement to doing that in the contract that we signed. And so he's trying to get that negotiated back, and a lot depends on when the cancellation occurs. If it happens after the deadline, then most likely they're going to try to resell it at a higher price, but we do have to pay the attrition penalty.
What's this going to drive us to is what happens at other kinds of sporting events is that the organizer manages all the rooms. That way the people don't call the hotel and cancel the room. They have to cancel the room with us. So that'll
Yeah,
drive
we
us to, it'll incur a lot more overhead to have to manage 1,000 rooms, or
Well,
whatever
that's-
number of rooms we're trying to.
So I was talking to Renee about that earlier, and that's exactly what I said. If we've got to keep the block for ourselves, then we're gonna have to manage that so that we don't pay penalties.
well, and that's I mean, it's gotta, we have to get them to agree to contracts that are written that way too. So, I mean, that's the first thing. A lot of this is contracts that were written a while ago before they started getting
Right.
so hostile on it.
Well, and
Yeah, it's
one
really-
problem we have is that we have a culture out there of schools preparing for the scholastic events of overbooking. The schools, they go in and they book rooms, and then if they're don't have that many people coming, they cancel them.
Right. And it still
If they're allowed to
costs
cancel
them
them
to
without
do
a
it.
substantial penalty, and then we face the attrition penalty, we've got a cultural problem that we need to find a way to fix.
Okay,
And we've got to shift the burden back to the person who's booking the room to be responsible for the booking.
It's technically
All right,
not
so-
an attrition penalty anymore because an attrition penalty is meant to be if you don't sell 80% of the hotel rooms. The reality is that we can actually sell more than X% of the hotel rooms and still get hit for it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing we need to consider is possibly the way we've set up the entry fees in terms of refunds. The problem right now is that our members, and this is a perfectly rational thing for our members to do, I don't know any against the members for doing it, are in a spot where they can book the hotels ahead of time, register the players ahead of time, and have minimal issues if they cancel. The issue right now is that is literally passing the entire cost of that hotel room to us. And it's, like I said, it's really not an attrition penalty. It's really something else.
Yeah, it's not. They're still calling it attrition, but that's not what it is.
It's not what it is anymore. You're right. It's something different. All right. So Chuck, if you're done with
So-
yours, we're gonna go.
So
Chuck, did
yes,
you have more?
I think those are all good points. It's a matter of minimizing our risk. It's okay to have a block of rooms that we know that will sell. But doing more than that takes on risk for the event in this environment or contract. So, okay,
All right.
that's what I had. Serious, not fatal. We're still in good business.
All right. Well, thank you very much. If there are no objections, we will move to closed session now. All right, we are back from closed session. And let's turn it over to our secretary, Mike Hoffpower, for motions.
Mr. President, we have two motions that came out of closed session. The first one is the use of the U.S. Chess Rainy Day Fund. The executive board moves to approve use of the rainy day funds, which are a subset of the reserve fund held in a Charles Schwab account, during the cash shortfall as presented to the delegates and approved by the same delegates in the budget for US Chess fiscal year 2024 to 25.
All right, do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
I would say, because I was on the board when we first established the reserve funds, and this is exactly what was intended for their use. So we have had situations with unexpected shortfalls, and that is where it is appropriate to use reserve funds. These are not situations where we have structural issues with the budget. These are one-time issues, and I'm really pleased that we have put aside these resources for exactly this use, and this is the purpose for which they were intended.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please sign by aye or raise your hand or both.
Aye.
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 Right, any opposed? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, motion carries. Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. President. The second motion involves the committees, the US Chess Executive Board appointed committees and membership therein. The Executive Board moves to approve the memberships for US Chess Executive Board appointed committees as posted on the US Chess Federation website. And I've given our Executive Director the most current listing of all those memberships.
All right, do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second, discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go forward with the vote. All in favor of the motion, please sign by aye or raise your hand or both.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The
And both
motion
motions
carries.
passed 7-0 with Leela DeCan noted as not being present due to Hurricane Francine preparations.
Thank you very much. All right, so at this point, we will convene, but on the other side of the World Olympiad, many of us are headed in that direction so that we can support our teams and be a part of the general assembly at FIDE. So we'll look forward to that, and hopefully we'll have
I
some
move we
good news on
adjourn.
the backside.
I
Pardon?
move we adjourn.
There you go. I was going to ask for a motion to adjourn. There's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Safe travels,
Any
guys.
opposed? No.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.